Well, let's just crack on before anything else goes wrong, eh? Okay, great. So, great. So basically today, very, very quick intro about me and Adam and why we are qualified to talk about technology, which obviously is doubtful at the moment. But hopefully we can prove that we've got some background if we are totally inept, but that's a different story altogether. We'll then talk about automation. Well, what is it? Why do you need it in your life? Why is it actually important to have to think about it as early as possible, really? Key terms. So, what is an API? It's a word you may well have heard. You may have some idea what it is, but it's important you at least know what it is in conceptual terms, rather than if you actually never ever get involved with them yourself, just because it's bounced around. Well, it's nice to know. Zaps, triggers, actions are all essential if you're going to use things like Zapier. Obviously, Zaps are pretty much a Zapier term, as you can imagine. They have other terms in other different software, but I'll cover all that in lots of detail shortly. We have some worked examples, so some just on this presentation now very quickly, just to give you some overview type stuff, and then we'll actually go through a live example of setting up a Zap, just to show you how easy it is to try to remove any barriers that you've got mentally about actually using things like Zapier. Even with my background in technology, I had definitely barriers about getting involved with them, thinking it was just going to be overcomplicated and just too much effort to actually use in business, and it isn't at all. And that's the point of this presentation, to try to remove those barriers and get you actually using this on a regular basis. And I hope that's what this is going to do for you. There'll be an open floor discussion at the end. So if you are already experienced in using this sort of stuff, then the beginning part may be a little bit basic for you, but we're going to stick around and we can have a discussions about more complicated stuff, if that is of interest to anyone. Okay, so if I get slightly distracted, it's just because I'm sort of shutting people down as they come in, so you just have to bear with me. But as you said, if you've just arrived, if you've got any questions, there's a chat little box, if you like, a chat function. If you click chat, type the question in. You can do it anonymously if you like. Adam will field all the questions and we'll get through them at the appropriate point. That might be at the end of the presentation. So if you don't answer straight away, we will go through all the chat box and make sure that all questions are sorted before the end of the day. Okay, cool. So very, very brief introduction about me. So my name is Dr. Steve Day. I'm the founder of the Systems and Outsourcing program, which probably most of you know. What you may not know is that I've got a degree in IT, or in computing, in fact, which I did back in 98. I started that and graduated in 2002. So I've been pretty much involved with IT all my life. Before that, I used to build PCs for hobbies, and I loved a bit of programming. And back in the day when we did things like BASIC, which may resonate with some of you, but some of you might have no idea what I'm talking about, and that's also absolutely fine. So my point in telling this is I've had a long history with technology. I'm a bit of a geek. I love tech and everything about computers in general. So although I haven't worked particularly in computing at any point in my life, it's always been something I brought into my own businesses and into everything I've ever done, because that's what I like to do. Adam, all yours.
Yeah, so I'm a bit of a tech and automation geek as well. I don't have a degree, as it happens, but I do have a 10-year career in IT behind me, where I've done everything from telephone help desk support to technical pre-sales to development and programming. I've also written a lot of trading algorithms, which are used for my own use, and automating those kind of strategies and monetizing them is basically what gave me the freedom to start looking at other avenues, such as setting up a property business. And I've tried to carry forward all my ethos about automating as much as possible into that business as well, and have written quite a few modules to help me in that business, alongside working with VAs for the human element.
Cool. And yeah, the reason Adam is joining us is because I've worked with Adam a lot over the past year almost now, probably. Yeah. He came on the course right in the early days and stuck with us through the good times and the bad, as you say. And now we're looking actually to develop a new arm of the business, if you like, together. So the service accommodation business we're building together as a team, because Adam's got great, as he's just said, great knowledge and vast knowledge of automation, of apps, of programming. So somebody that's a real asset to the team. So yeah, great to have him on board today. Okay, cool. So if this isn't really relevant to if you're already in the systems for outsourcing program, as you will have already know that's our website, or if you click on that, you'll go to our website. But if you haven't already joined the program, or you haven't found our website yet, then that's where it is. So first of all, very briefly, a definition of systemization. So this is just my own definition, but try to keep it as simple as possible. Basically, I believe systemization or systematization, or however you pronounce that word, is formalizing the steps to perform a task. And that's it. There's nothing more complicated. It's just basically writing down in a reproducible way what you do to complete something. That's it. Automation, on the other hand, is actually performing that task without any human intervention whatsoever. That's what I see automation as being. And you may also use that to link a series of tasks together. So things can get quite complicated and quite powerful, if you like, when you start linking multiple tasks totally void of human interaction together into something that can actually just fire itself off with an event, if you like, and we'll talk about that again in more detail in a moment. So why would you bother going to the effort of actually automating what you do? And there are some obvious things. If you're not involved in a part of a process, then it obviously saves time for yourself and resources such as money and also your staff time. So that is a huge benefit and something that's quite obvious to most people. So you've got to make sure that the cost outweighs the benefit. No, the benefit outweighs the cost, sorry. So that's where actually using things like Zapier has totally revolutionized this benefit cost ratio. It used to be, and I'll talk about this more in a minute, it used to be in the realms of the big companies who had big budgets, who could pay programmers to develop lots and lots of thousands and thousands of lines of code to do what you can now do with a few clicks. So that has become totally, it's swung the balance, if you like, or tipped the scales. By doing this, you will give your customers an infinitely better experience. If you sign up for something, so if you paid for one of our services, you will have, if things were working properly, which I hope they were, you should have then received an email saying, thank you for your purchase. This is a bit about us. This is what you bought. And then maybe a follow-up email saying, here's the next steps. You will then hopefully got a message saying, can you come and meet me on Facebook and be my friend? And a series of actions that have happened. And all that is part of a automated series of events. So you as the customer, or your own customers, I should say, will see that you are engaged, you are actually reacting to whatever it is they've done, and that you are providing them with timely information and services. And so from their side, they're immediately thinking you're a good business to work with. If you're a week before you even acknowledge they've actually contacted you or made a sale, that's not a great first impression. And so that's not the sort of company that I would want to interact with. And so therefore, it's really, really important to have these basic things set up. And these can be done really, really quickly, and they can save huge amounts of time and effort and a headache on your side. For example, if you go on holiday or go away for the weekend, somebody's still actually monitoring, somebody in inverted commas is still actually monitoring what's going on your site, so they can actually react to things. Improve reliability. Humans will error. It's just part of the existence of humans, unfortunately. We're not very good at doing things repetitively. We do make mistakes all the time, and it's totally unavoidable. So don't try to create systems that rely entirely on humans if they aren't mission critical, because they will fail. It's inevitable. So using automation software, however, if it's programmed correctly, will not fail. Will not normally fail. Sometimes they do get missed. It's just the nature of programs. You can, but the sequence of events won't change. You will always get what you program into it, as long as it actually triggers off, if you like. But I'm probably going into a bit of the the detail that you don't really require. So just basically, machines do what you tell them. That's
the key thing there is probably that because there's probably a few people sat there now going, yeah, well, my computer breaks all the time, mate.
Yeah.
It doesn't work properly at all. But actually, if you know, a well-designed Zapier or well-programmed piece of software will tell you when it's done something wrong anyway. So it'll give you an alert and you can react to that. Whereas most human error, they've kind of just missed something, and you retrospectively have to go back and try and figure out what's happened there rather than proactively dealing with it.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, and at best, your VA or your staff will tell you that there's something wrong, and normally they'll just push it to the carpet and move on. Hope nobody notices. Okay, so Scalability as well. Yeah, you are limited with the number of tasks any one person can do in any day. Computers on the hand are totally unlimited and things happen instantaneously. So if you can build a lot of your main repetitive processes and build them into automation software rather than relying on people, then obviously that's a really easy scalable model. And one thing, if you're looking for investment, if you're looking to sell or looking to just step out yourself, then having systems and scalability, systems and automation in place will increase the value of your company considerably. People like it if they're not, if people, investors I should say, or banks like it if people aren't involved, because key people can come and come and go from the company, whereas you own the IP of those automation software that you produce. You should probably watch that, because actually Zapier probably owns some of the IP, so don't quote me on that. Okay, so what do I mean by automating a workflow? Let's put it into some nice pretty pictures. So here's customer X, and customer X buys something using PayPal. Now, PayPal, then what we now need to do, it's up to them. They buy something from PayPal. What we now need to do is to engage them or switch them onto our site, if you like, so they can access whatever it is that they have purchased. So in our example, it would be they've access to the Systems for Outsourcing core site. So we need to switch that on. And the next thing we need to do, which is something actually we don't do at the moment, so don't feel bad if you've not got this, if you're already in the program, something we'd like to do is actually send out a welcome pack. So physical, something in the post to say, hey, welcome, thank you for choosing to invest with us. Here is something nice for you to have a look at. And so we want that to happen. And next we want to send maybe a series of emails, thanking them, as I described a minute ago, thanking them for the purchase. Maybe they are going to tell them a bit more information about what to expect, when to do it, or maybe actually ask them to do something. And next we want to get them on Facebook. So as you probably know, we do a lot of stuff on Facebook. So we need to engage with you on Facebook. We need to join groups. We need to join our Facebook bot. We need you to befriend us, if you like, so we can actually contact you. And then we also, and then we need to get you into Messenger for the same reason, so we can actually keep in touch with you. And that's basically what the customer will see. And that's what you want to automate. And the key is, how do you do that without having any human involvement at any point in that process? Because if you can do that, then you can have lots and lots of people starting at the same time, and it's never going to have a bottleneck. If you rely on a human at any point, then obviously you are then relying on someone starting or finishing their shift, not going off sick, or whatever else. So when we look at that slightly more from the computer side, if you like, so what's going on in the background of the customer seeing all those things happening, we've got PayPal triggering off, and we use it, an API, we're going to describe and explain exactly what that is in a second, so don't worry about the acronym for the moment. So the API is going to give some information when you click on pay. It'll give some information to Google Sheets. And this is just one way of doing this. There's many ways. So if you do it differently already in your own company, then don't worry about that. This is just an example, and we'll go through some more examples in a bit. Then Google Sheets, using again triggers, we can then we can then get that information to do other stuff. So in this example, we're going to send an email, and we're going to use the email address that PayPal provided to us and the username, and combine that with some information that we've got stored in our Google Sheets and create a nice template of the email to go out to, for example, a fulfillment company to deliver that welcome pack. So that we're going to pull the information from PayPal, add some of our own information in, send it off, and then the fulfillment company can then complete that service, totally automating that side of it. Or we could create a task in Asana. And as you know, you're hopefully starting to use Asana if you're not really using it a lot. And you can do anything you want in Asana because it's just a tool to be able to delegate out tasks. So you can create any task you want from that information. In our example, we set them up on the core site. We ask you to befriend us on Facebook, and we use a VA to do that. And then we ask you to join our ManyChat bot, so our Systems for Outsourcing bot, to allow us to actually communicate with you on a regular basis to help you get through the course. And all that at the moment is done by a VA. Some of that could well be probably programmed or using more complicated Zapier stuff. The reason some of those processes are done manually now is because there isn't a native, or there isn't a Zap available to do that. So therefore we use a combination of Zaps and our VAs to create a whole workflow that's automated from our point of view as a business owners. There is, in certain instances, still the requirement for VAs. And I put that there just so you can see that you don't have to think, oh, I can't do all those out there, for it's useless. That's not the case. You can do huge amounts using things like Zapier and APIs, but actually sometimes you still need to get a human involved just to feel where there isn't good integrations.
It's a really good point.
Questions pop up there.
I think really important to let people understand that your human staff, i.e. VAs, can work in complete harmony with this automation. I'm all about automating, and previously I would have said I like to automate first and then delegate, but actually in the process of figuring out the automations, you kind of need a process in place to begin with, and the best way to get that process established is to have someone do it repetitively for a period of time. And at that point, if you think, oh, actually, do you know what, we could probably take this off that person's hands, automate it, and then get them on working on something else. A lot of my tasks use some automation, but then part of that automation is to send a task in Asana to a VA to action further. So it's not a replacement for human staff by any means. It's something to work in harmony with them.
Yeah. I think that's actually worth repeating what you just said there, because it's something I probably should have said a little bit earlier, in that when you're developing these workflows, you always start with humans. Humans, you can adapt, you can change things, you can have a go. It's very, very quick. As soon as you've done it once or twice, like maybe you doing it, maybe a VA doing it, then you can say, yeah, I'm going to do this task again. So it's a repetitive task. At that point, you can think about doing something with an API. The thing about Zapier is that Zapier, it's actually so quick to set things up. You can just trial and error stuff and just ditch it if you never use it again. But I still recommend, especially when we're using VAs that only cost a few pounds an hour, it's quicker, it's easier to do iterations and improvements with using a human than it is trying to have to tweak Zaps all the time. So yeah, if you're ever in doubt, start with a human, go through the process a couple of times, and then think about automation. So I know it's repeating back to what Adam just said, but I think it's a really important point.
Yeah, I was just asking what API stands for again, which is Application Programming Interface. It's all an API is.
Next screen.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
Just so yeah. We'll come. Sorry, I shouldn't have put it on this diagram. It was my bad. I'm going to talk about it literally. I think it's the next one, or if not, it's the one after. There we go. Yeah. Application Programming Interface. So, what is an API? And this is obviously quite a crucial part to understand this concept. And it basically, if you think about an application, so an app is any computer program, anything that you could imagine, software, application, whatever the word you want to use for it. And a programming interface is just a standard way of passing some information from one app to another. So, for example, it could be that you have, like we did our example earlier, PayPal, the client or the customer buys something on PayPal, and in doing so, the email address is captured, maybe their home address, maybe their name, first name, last name, and then that information is stored in PayPal. And then you've got another application that wants that information. And if you can, PayPal is probably made up of millions of lines of code, and it's all the customer data is stored in databases. So there's got to be some standardized way of the second app requesting that information from PayPal in a way that it can understand and then use. And so the interface is like a standardized way of communication between two bits of software that allows them to seamlessly pass information and also, we'll see in a minute, trigger events based on a standardized, I'm trying to avoid using technical words, a standardized way of working. Does that make sense to people? If that doesn't make sense, then say so, or speak now, or hold your peace.
It's just a way of presenting information, isn't it? If you think about when you browse a website, I'll use a property example because I know a lot of people are in property on the program. When you browse the Rightmove website, all you're really doing is sifting through a huge database of properties, but it's presented in a nicely formatted way with lovely pictures that you can view easily and extract the information for yourself. Obviously, a computer or a piece of software doesn't really need all that pretty formatting and things. It just needs a way to extract the information, and that's what an API offers. So in the same way that a website presents information from a service or company in one way that's suitable for you, an API presents that information in a way that's really efficient for another computer program to access.
That's a cool example. I like that. Okay, so here is an example. PayPal using what we call an API can pass information to something like Infusionsoft. So name, email address, what product was purchased, for example, price was paid, pass it all over. And the trigger, which we'll define again in a second, the trigger is the event which occurs within the first app that then creates an action in the second app. So in this example, our trigger is PayPal, somebody clicks buy, and the action is let's create or update a contact card in Infusionsoft. And for those of you who don't know, Infusionsoft is a CRM, so a customer relationship management tool. Basically, it's a phone book. So don't worry about it. If you're not aware of what Infusionsoft is, it's basically a fancy phone book. So what we're doing is we're triggering an event that updates the contact details in the phone book that we use for our company, in very simple terms. Okay, so just to give you a very brief background of why things like Zapier are so just a huge game changer for people like us, small business. So back in the day, if you like, and we're not going back very far, 10 years easily, if you wanted, with certain exceptions, but if you wanted two pieces of software to talk to each other, you wrote some code. And we're not just talking about a little bit of plain English, or I'd like you to take the name from this person and put it into this app. We're talking about thousands of lines of code to actually get these programs to talk to each other, because this is before the days of true standardization of the way programs talk to each other using these things called APIs. And Adam, you can chip in if this isn't your understanding, because you probably are, well, no, I won't say probably, you definitely are more on the ball with this stuff because you've worked in the industry. So I'm doing it from a very much a outsider looking in point of view. But if this works, then we'll just run with it. You happy?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's that. And then apps started realizing the value of being able to talk to each other. App developers, I should say. So people like, say, if you Salesforce automation software, or Salesforce CRM, is it's called, so business automation or business software that's used in companies, and you want that to talk to each other, then they needed to find a way of making that happen. And that was where APIs came in. It allowed these apps, as we've described a minute ago, to talk a common language, to share data. And that was a huge game changer. Suddenly you could have your accounting software like Sage talking to your sales software. So basically your tax returns are getting developed for you, are getting made for you by the software in the background with no interaction of a human getting involved. So these are really big game changers for large companies. The problem is, again, it relied hugely on the companies developing integrated languages, like integrated programs that allow these programs to talk to each other. Then you had the sort of API hub in inverted commas software, and what this did was allow companies to then, from their own end, they only had to worry about what data they presented to the outside world. They didn't have to worry about where it went and what people did with it. And they just had, well, two things they have to worry about. One is how they presented the information they held to the world, and then how they dealt with information coming to them. And it's that API, like that interface, that allowed then everybody just to develop one bit of program, and then things like Zapier link it all together. So they take the information from one program and then pass it to another in a standardized way, so everything can talk, and it allows people like us at a few clicks to do what would have taken many thousands of lines of code not too many years ago at all. Happy, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like you say, it used to be the case that every bit of software was had a wall around it, that it was completely proprietary, and you didn't have any visibility of what was going on under the hood, so to speak. And the advent of adding APIs to everything and everything being a bit more open was effectively, it's like adding an entrance and an exit door to those walls so that you can actually access that information. And Zapier gives you the vehicle to get at that information without having to understand millions of lines of code, or have any sort of coding background, and not even have to be particularly techie, in fact. No. So they've done a brilliant job of making that kind of thing so accessible to the general public. It's fantastic.
Yeah, totally agree. Got an analogy here. I won't say names just in case we publish this publicly. So the name on there's a analogy on here about it's like a hormone taking a message from one part of the body to another. So to run with that analogy, Zapier is like the blood vessel, or is Zapier like the blood vessel system? I'd probably say Zapier is more like the brain in that context, because basically all the information feeds back to a central point and then goes out to the right part of the body again. So yeah, hormones or electrical impulses, that's sort of the code, if you like. And actually, what you've got to say, if you have a pain receptor in your finger that goes up to your brain, the Zapier will be the brain, and then it will send a message down to your muscle to react, to move. So Zapier is the brain that links the input message, so the pain receptor, to the output message, which is the move action, if you like. So that's the trigger, which is the pain, action, move. So that would be probably a slightly better example. I hope that explains it. I should use more medical examples. It'd be great. put my 8 years of hard work into good use. Okay, so now seamlessly brings us on to Zapier. Zapier is, as we described, an online tool that connects different apps. Again, I've tried to simplify these definitions to the absolute bare minimum because I don't think they need to be overcomplicated. It basically just allows you to move data between apps and automate tasks without coding. And we've said this before, but the key is without coding. This has been possible for a long time, but not accessible. And so that has been a huge game changer, and affordable as well. And talking about affordability, so this is the pricing for Zapier. We started out on the starter. We actually quickly got up to 20 apps. And I'll probably be able to show you why that was so quick getting up to there. But I'll briefly describe, it might be worth looking at it. But basically we have, so in the Systems Outsourcing program, we have accountability forms that come in at the end of each module. So we have 10 now modules, and each of those has an accountability form. Each of those required a new Zap to be able to do what we wanted to do with it. So we had an accountability form and then a feedback form. That's 20 Zaps gone. However, something we'll talk that is worth noting, that these prices look quite a lot when you're going sort of like 125 quid a month. That's a huge amount. You know, maybe I'm going to get that target. Is it worth investing the time into this if it's going to cost you lots of money? If you start, like we have, having processes that are very similar, that are basically just using up Zaps, and you're going to use them forever. We're not going to make any major changes to them. It's core stuff to our business. Then actually at that point, it's worth getting a programmer just to write the API code, so the code that talks between the two APIs, just write that for you. So it would take a programmer, a few hours to write that code nowadays, because they have this common language. It's just about linking those two together. So instead of getting Zapier to do it, you just get yourself a program set up. So if you get to that point where you're actually thinking about automating many steps in your business, you don't have to be worried about the cost escalating. You can hard code this stuff. So actually the stuff that you do regularly, you can actually, for not a lot of money, when you're employing people from places like the Philippines for definitely less than a couple of days work, get these things hard coded and off Zapier and into your own. And then you really do own the API. So you actually those are things you can think about actually selling on if they're really useful for other people. So just some terminology before we crack on. Zap, any series of linked tasks, could be just 2 tasks, so it could be a trigger and an action, so a single thing. So email received, saved to Evernote, that would be a Zap. Or it could be really complex, and I'll show you a slightly more complex one in a second rather than just talking through it. A trigger is an event, any event, so it could be the arrival of that email, it could be a post on Facebook, it could be someone submits a form, many things it could be. And the action is anything done by that Zap. So what task is performed, send another email, update a database, create a task in Asana, whatever it may be. Oh, I've even got some examples. Example trigger, so exactly what I just said then: PayPal, purchases, emails, Facebook posts, Google Forms. An example, actions, send emails, create calendar appointments, assign tasks, create and update contact info, post to a Facebook page. There are literally thousands of apps that are available to Zapier. Zapier seems to be one of the most available apps. There are other ones out there, and by all means use those. Some of them are a little bit cheaper. When I did research into it, Zapier seemed to be definitely the leader with regards to the number of apps. That may well change over time, who knows. But yeah, the point is Zapier has literally thousands of apps available. Each of those has maybe 5-10 different triggers and and similar number of actions. So the possible permutations of what you can get Zapier to do, or APIs in general, is literally in the millions. So these are just some plucked out of thin air examples of things you could do. If you think about it, and if you've got an idea, it'll probably already be available through an API. So definitely worth looking at. Oh, I did this slide very last minute, so apologies. I've messed up the animations. But basically, PayPal. I've ruined my the punchline, if you like. So PayPal trigger new sale sends information to Zapier. Now Zapier, for example, in this example, we're going to pretend that all you've done is you've got them to do a new sale, and all you've asked them for is their email address. But it's an existing client, so you've not made them put their their address in again. So at this point, you've actually gone to Infusionsoft and looked up that client's information and pulled down their address. Or it could be looking for some other information. So it could be that they've purchased something from you and you want to tie it into some other information you hold. Maybe you know on record that you store a field, what are your hobbies? Could you, or you could have what's your birthday, whatever it is. So you basically pull some information you're storing about that client, and then you pass it to, in this example, to Asana. And the reason I put Asana in here is because that's the hub that we use for everything that we can't automate. And Moonpig, and the reason I picked that example, if you don't know, it's a card and gift delivery service. So you can customize cards online, and they'll write it for you, sign it for you, and then and send it direct to the client customer, or I use it for tenants mainly. And welcome card, if someone moves in, I get my PA to just send a Moonpig card for me. So by doing this, you can then really personalize that. So you can pull in all the information. So say you've got this guy's hobby, he likes windsurfing, I don't know, whatever. Then you could use that to send your PA saying, can you find him a card on windsurfing to say thank you for your purchase? I hope you really enjoy it. Maybe nothing to do with windsurfing, but he'll be touched the fact you've remembered that. And that personalization is what makes lifetime customers. And so this is how you can actually pull, using one trigger, then pull information from different apps, create a really powerful message, if you like, by doing something like that.
Moonpig, I've just been reading, Moonpig is actually developing an API as well.
They are, but it's not there yet. So my example
could be interesting in the future. You could automatically have that stuff sent out.
Totally, and I can't believe they don't, to be honest, because it to me it's a no-brainer. But there you go. Okay, cool. So that was it really. There's no more questions have jumped in, which is quite cool. There was a few along the way, but if there's any more questions before we just crack on and give you an actual worked example of setting up an app, Zap, sorry, then please feel free to file them in now. If not,
either it's completely clear or completely unclear.
Exactly, yeah. Everyone's either asleep or bewildered or loving it. One of the three. Cool. I just needed to do that button, didn't I? So, Adam, are you take the helm for this?
Yeah, I can do.
I don't mind.
If I can share my screen.
Riveted. I didn't expect that reaction to a webinar on APIs. I'm very loving it. Oh, brilliant! Cheers, Austin. So yeah, I'm doing good.
Am I going to be able to share my screen?
You should be able to, bottom, just in the bottom should be share screen.
Is that working?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I've got a bit of a here's one I made earlier, or I can just do it completely from scratch. You can still follow the one I made step by step.
I think if you just do a simple, maybe just show how you set it up.
Yeah.
Literally just show how simple it is, and then maybe you can look at your one you actually set up in detail.
Okay. So I've logged onto Zapier already here. So this is what you see in your Zapier dashboard. So to do a new Zap, you just click Make a Zap. So the example I'll do is, let's say you want to archive your email from Gmail into Evernote, which is it's a great thing to do anyway, by the way, because if you archive emails to Evernote and they have attachments, then you can actually search through the attachments in Evernote. So if you had an email from years ago and you can't remember who it was from or whatever, but you know roughly the content of the attachment, then if you archive all your emails into something like Evernote, then you can actually search through the content of the attachment. So it's a great thing to do. the point of view of this Zap, as Steve said, with any Zap, you basically have a trigger and an action. The trigger is the kind of source application, if you like. So obviously we're dealing with emails coming in. So we'll pick Gmail as the trigger app. And let's say, for example, when our invoices come into our email, we're going to apply a label that says invoice or receipt or whatever. So the actual trigger, there's a number of different triggers that you can select, as you can see. The trigger will be new labeled email. Save that and continue. At this point, it'll ask you to connect this is actually connecting your Gmail to Zapier so that Zapier can work with your emails. So you can enter your email address there and just click save and continue. It might ask you to authenticate and all that kind of stuff. And then we pick a label. So I've got all sorts of labels in here. I'll just pick this alerts one. If you're working with invoices, you probably will have a label called receipts or an inbox folder called receipts, I guess. So that's telling Zapier to look for any emails in your Gmail that are labeled as receipts, or in this case, alerts for the sake of this example. So now it's going to do a quick test just to make sure we've set up everything okay. We've found some emails that have that label. So the test was successful, so we can continue. Okay, so at this point, we've set up everything that Zapier needs for grabbing the emails that we want from our email account in an automated way. So now we need to decide what to do with them. And the action that we said we were going to do was to just send them over to Evernote. And we'll send them to a particular notebook in Evernote, which will be where we archive our receipts. So we'll choose Evernote as the action app. And what we're actually going to do is create a note. At this point, just like we had to connect our Gmail to Zapier, Zapier now also needs to connect to Evernote. I've already connected my account for something else, so that should work, hopefully. Okay, so at this point, I need to choose a notebook where I want to send my receipts, put them in my business receipts notebook.
A notebook's like a folder in Evernote if you've not used it. So it's just basically, you can have it's a folder that's full of notes or full of files, if you like.
Yeah, so usually it autofills those fields actually based on the successful test that it did.
Do you know how to pull them in from the new label? Yeah. And say which part of that you want it to be. So, for example,
let's call it the subject.
Yeah. So what this is doing here is it's pulling the information from the email that it's read and that test, and then you're able to use that to, for example, give the title of the task. So in more simple terms, say if you had an email from John Smith, you could then, the file that you create in Evernote, or the note you create in Evernote, you could call it John Smith, and therefore you can then find it under that person's name, or alternatively you could call it the subject of the email, for example. That's probably the common one to do. You can use whatever information was available in that email, you can then use for labeling or for bringing into the Zap.
Yeah, so you're mapping the information in your email to fields in the note that you're creating. So as the title, I just use the subject, and then the content is just the body of the email essentially. So I won't bother with the optional fields. We'll click continue there. We've got a title and some random output from one of my applications there. So at this point, we can send a test over to Evernote, and hopefully it will create a note for us. It says it was successfully sent. So let's have a look at so this is the note that, as garbled and garbage as that probably looks to everyone, that's the note that it's created based on the input that I put in. So in my receipts folder, I've now got a load of output from a bot that I run essentially. But you can see that it's created the note successfully based on an email that came in. So we can click finish now. email to Evernote. So I give that a name. I'll switch it on. And that's it. Now, what that Zap is now going to sit there doing is every quarter of an hour, it will basically monitor my Gmail inbox, and any new emails that come in with that label, it will just fire them straight over to my receipts folder. So for that particular example, that could make it nice and easy for your bookkeeper or whoever processes your accounts to add your financial information as and when it comes in.
And to find stuff as well. So if you give them access to your Evernote account, then when all those annoying emails you get from your bookkeeper saying, "Oh, I can't find this transaction," if they've got access, you give them permission to actually do a couple of searches. You can either give them access to your Gmail, which is fine, but the problem with Gmail is it won't search the body, so it won't search the text contained within attached documents, which is the whole purpose of doing this into Evernote. But then you give them access to your Evernote account through LastPass, and suddenly they can do what you would do if they asked you the same question. I don't remember what I purchased last June, so I'd have to do the process of going through, finding the invoice, looking at it. So why should I be doing that? That's obviously the point. You employ someone else to do this stuff. So give them access to this stuff, and they can actually do it all for you. So that's what the real power of this stuff is how can I, every time you do anything, it's like, how can I not do this? It should be your first thought that comes into your head. And the longer you do something, the more frustrated you should be with yourself, because you shouldn't be doing it. That is honestly how I try to function my day. I'm not saying it works every time, but that is how you should be trying to direct your days.
You can combine it with your other processes as well. I mean, not every invoice you have is going to come into your email. It's going to be receipts as well, but you can just take a picture of that and send that straight to Evernote from your Google Photos or whatever, and they'll just dump it all in the same place, and it makes it so much easier then.
Yeah. Or again, what I do is all my mail, I now get sent to or I say if I've got a contractor that comes out to do some work on my houses, that invoice or whatever will get sent directly to my PA. So my PA now scans it for me and does it. So I don't even have to get involved, because I live in Sweden. It's a bit hassle, and my mum used to have to take pictures on WhatsApp and send them to me, which is pretty archaic. I looked at using companies that sort of deal with mail and opening mail for you, and it just, for the amount I get, it wasn't worth it. And so now I just basically forward everything to my PA, and she does it all for me. But I don't get very much, so that's why it's easy to do.
Someone said I must be hot in the conservatory. Yeah, I am actually. My office is having a bit of work done to it, so I've moved to this greenhouse environment just for today. It's perfect timing.
Lucky it's not one of the hottest days of the year, Adam. You're looking good, actually. You must have had some good makeup before we started. Sorry, I'm in my mum's office. my stepdad was just walking in. The joys of work. So we're both working in temporary shacks at the moment. So, has anyone got any more questions or anything you want us to go over in more detail, or examples you want to work through? What would be useful at this point? You've basically had all the predetermined content, if you like.
Steve, I've got a question. It's Paul.
Fire away, Paul.
Hiya. So what level of detail can you go into? So if you had an email, can it scan the email for keywords and triggers and things like that? So if an email comes in, it's got invoice or receipt, it will then search it and then automatically save it. So you know that you've got all your, let's say all your invoice and receipts in one area.
Yes.
You want to say the short answer is yes.
Yeah, I mean, you could. The other thing you could do there is obviously you could filter within your Gmail, I think, on that kind of thing, and then make Gmail apply the relevant label, and then your Zap, the example I just went through, could pick up on emails with that label and send them into Evernote.
Yeah, that's what I would do too. Because Gmail's really, really powerful in itself for labeling stuff. But you can actually write scripts as well. So if you have something that it can't do, then you can get a program to write your little script to make it happen. So, but I just tried to do this the other day, and actually I found that with somebody who knew what they're talking about, they actually found a way that Gmail allowed me to. So here's an example that we used the other day. When somebody, this is Gmail, not Zapier now. So when somebody request access to one of our templates, edit access, it's a bit of a pain for us, because they shouldn't be requesting edit access. They should just be creating their own copy. They don't need to contact us about that. But they obviously, beginning the course ever, we haven't explained it very clearly, so they've clicked edit request access, which is totally understandable. So what we've now done is to create an automation that sends a reply back to them saying, with instructions on how you create your own copy of the documents, that we'd have to get involved with that. So that's automation by simply using your email client to do specific replies depending on certain text that comes in from that email. And if you think about, it's not just like reply to anyone with this subject. It's you have to actually pull out the email address. You have to then search the body, find the relevant trigger, and then create the automated response. So that sort of stuff is super helpful for A, doing auto replies, and B, being able to actually forward stuff or label stuff, and then let things like Zapier deal with more complicated stuff.
To answer your question a little bit more directly, Paul, this is the list of triggers for Gmail in Zapier, and you can see the top one is an email that matches the search. So you can use some free text kind of search terms in there to try and match it up as well, which is, I think, a bit more what you were referring to. But you just have to accept that's a little bit more error prone probably than applying a fixed label and acting based on that. But yes,
and you'll use a task for every single email that hits your inbox.
Yeah.
So you're probably quite. I mean, if you look at the pricing, I think it's like 2,000. Oh, not even that many for the cheaper one. 2,500 tasks.
$20 for 1,000 zaps, is it? Something like that.
Yeah. So it's actually, you'll hit that quite quickly if you think about how many emails you get in junk email and stuff. Definitely. So that's why actually you got to be slightly careful. It's good for testing, but actually for that particular example, there's a workaround in Google. There may not always be, and that's where if you do have something that's going to trigger thousands of zaps, then you hard code it in the long run.
So someone's asked, stopped using Evernote years ago as I thought it was superfluous, but is the USP searchable attachments? I think the search function in Evernote is definitely one of its real strengths. I use it a lot for just literally just note taking. To have it's kind of like a really good database program, really, that's quite user accessible. I also use it quite a lot for business cards. So I have a folder in my Evernote where I will just kind of dump business cards, and then my VA will then add them to my CRM. The way you can, I'm sure everyone here has probably used Jing because it's advocated quite heavily on the program. And as you know, you can annotate images, draw boxes around them and arrows and things. And you can do that in Evernote now as well. So if you collect a business card or something and you want to highlight a certain thing on it, or say this is the guy's job title, or this is important as a tag or whatever for your CRM, then it's really good for that. You can attach voice recordings. So generally when I meet someone out and about, I'll attach a quick voice note just with notes that I want my VA to attach in the CRM program, so that I have so I remember who it is basically and where I know them from. So there's lots of different uses for it. I think it's well worth looking into again if you haven't for a while.
I use it for dictation as well. So it's what I want to do is be able to press one button on my phone, and the next thing that happens is that I get a transcribed voice without any involvement of me having to attach or send or whatever. And Evernote combined with Zapier allows me to do that through Asana. So I create the voice. You have a little app on your phone, press the button, create voice note, record it. As soon as I let go, it goes into that folder. Going into the folder itself in Evernote triggers a zap. That then creates a predefined Asana template, which teaches the person who's doing the transcription exactly how I want it delivered, and then it arrives exactly where I want it to be when it's done. So lots of things that you could do. There's a question here from Renita. Very simply, does Evernote just do searching better? The simple answer is yes. Gmail, you can't search within the attachments. So if you've got a PDF attached to a Gmail can't search inside that. Whereas as soon as you put it into Evernote, it uses optical character recognition software, so OCR software, to scan that. In effect, it scans it, turns it into text, which is then searchable by using their search function. So that's why it's so much more powerful than email.
Jason's saying that if we use Zapier to create an Asana task, if the task has 9 subtasks, is that 1 Zap or 10 Zaps? It's a good question. This is a prime example of, it's a good case where ultimately you would probably want to have something custom developed for yourself, but Zapier is a good way of testing it because, and it's more a limitation of the Asana API than Zapier actually, but every single task, subtask, and even section header within a task or within a project is a task basically, and therefore a Zap. So if you've got, for example, I've got an application that sits between my channel manager for my SA business and Asana to create a housekeeping checklist. The checklist has got like 70 items on it. That's 70 Zaps if I get Zapier to create the checklist.
And a pain in the bum creating it.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And you very quickly you reach your limit then under your Zapier account. And also you probably have to duplicate some information between Asana and Zapier. It's not that easy to just copy a task template, for example. So it's a good example where you probably want to move to more of a custom built solution ultimately, but you could run a couple through Zapier just to test it for sure.
So here is an example of exactly that. So basically we have this is when someone signs up, someone fills in the pre-course fact find that we ask everyone to do, then this triggers off a number of things. One of them being this Zap, which is basically the next steps in the process. And you can see here, if you look at this section here, can I zoom in at all? Yes, if you see this section here, is basically the notes. That will create what is in effect the description in the Asana task. And we're using the same format, so you've got task tutorial, description, intention, exactly the same format as you use everything else. But then what we've got, if we get down to what would in effect be that checklist stage that you see, or subtasks, because often we go, if they're complicated checklists, might have subtasks, open up more information. So instead of doing that, all I've done here, step 1, step 2, step 3. And that is a very quick way to test and to test using Zapier without having to worry about creating lots of steps. It's not the end solution, but in development, you want something that's quick and easy to adapt and change. And so think about, ideally I want this solution that will have it all nicely laid out and looking pretty and I can tick everything, it's all hunky-dory and easy to use. But actually in development, you want something that's easy to set up, quick to change, and not going to waste huge amounts of resources if you end up not using it. So just think about, as you're developing stuff, just keep it simple to begin with. Don't try and, it's really tempting with things like Zapier to spend hours creating beautiful, complex, multi-Zap processes that just totally over the top, because it is really, well, if you're like me, it's good fun to get into this sort of stuff. And there's lots of examples like this with Infusionsoft, with ManyChat, with Zapier. When you can automate stuff, you sort of think that the possibilities are endless. And yes, they are. You've got to weigh that up with how much time you're spending doing it. So 2 things. One is I don't create any Zaps anymore. That was the rule I made from very early on. I created a training of how I teach my VAs to create Zaps. And then the only time I create a new Zap is if there's 2 new pieces of software that I need to figure out how they're going to talk to each other. Then I'll just create a task template to explain that very simply to my VA so they can then do all the future versions of it. So that's the only time I get involved with Zapier anymore. Everything else my VA sets up and does it for me. So because it takes time to click this, wait for it to load, wait for it to test the steps, realize you've got something wrong, reload the spreadsheet. It all takes a lot of time. Let somebody else do all the donkey work. You just come up with, I want this to happen between these 2 apps and I want this to be the result. That's how you outsource this. Don't do it yourself once you've got your head around it. But obviously you need just to get your head around it first, but your goal should be to get somebody else to do all of this for you.
Does Zapier work with Xero? Yes, there's quite a few different triggers for that. You can create invoices from PayPal sales and all kinds of things, and send alerts out to messaging applications when new invoices get created, all that kind of stuff. If you go on the Zapier website, it is just zapier.com, I think. You can just basically search for an app, and when you click into that app, it will show you all the pre-built kind of integrations that have already been done for that application. But that's not the limit of what can be done with them by any means. There's a whole load more stuff you can do if you go into Zapier and create your own, but there are quite a few pre-built ones as well. I think that's
one of the reasons I delayed getting involved with Zapier, because I believe that the ones that showed you were the only ones available. And I was thinking, well, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to bother with it. And actually, if you just scroll down to the bottom, it's like gives you a list of all the triggers and all the events for every app that it has. And that's where you see what you can do, not often in the predefined ones. They're just the common ones that people have used often.
Arshad's asking if Zapier connects to POP3 or IMAP email for, do you mean for Gmail or just email in general? I misread that a bit there, sorry. So for Gmail, it will just use their API, so it won't be using either, but I get the question.
You can fire emails off directly from within it.
Yeah, so that'll use...
I've never used it, but you can.
I would think it would use IMAP, but I'm not 100% actually.
Yeah, have a quick look. I'll show you. Can I say Arsha, just have a look at so just go onto the Zapier website, open up Zero or click Zero, go down and have a look at all the triggers and the actions, and it'll answer all the questions about what it can and can't do. We obviously don't have detailed knowledge of every app there, so if there's something specific you want to find out, it'll take you 2 minutes to look, if you don't mind.
You could certainly have an app that would take data from somewhere, add it to a Google Sheet, and then create a record off that as a multi-step kind of thing.
Yeah. Where you say non-Gmail, yeah, I don't know is the answer. I very much presume you can do it? Or now you're making me want to know.
Send emails as a, because you could have an email report of a Zap being successful or unsuccessful. I'm
just wondering if you can do it. Let's have a look. Share my screen again so you can see what I'm doing.
There's a load of stuff that comes up if you search for Zapier IMAP, for example.
Right there. So you can either do this directly from the website, or you can let's just see what comes up if we do IMAP. Nothing. Oh, that's my own Zaps. IMAP by Zapier. So that looks like you can probably do some stuff with that. Let's have a look. So new email comes in. So if you scroll down at this, so it'll give you loads of stats up here. A lot of them are just pointless. Keep scrolling down, and then you see the current selection. And I go through that process actually. It's quite useful to know. And so basically, I want to have say what can I do with these two things. So IMAP, for those of you who don't know, IMAP and POP3 are basically just different ways that computer programs deal with emails. You can imagine one of them. This is a stupid example. I don't know. One of them. I can't think of an example that makes just how you open an email. Let's just say that. So how you open an email, there's different ways of dealing with it. They're called protocols and all different methods of doing that. And this is just one of them called IMAP. What we're looking for here is what triggers can we use when an email arrives or some event happens to that email using Zapier. So what I've done is I've said those are the two things I want to look at. So IMAP by Zapier. It could be anything. So it could be Gmail if you use Gmail. It could be Outlook. And then Google Sheets is the other thing I want to look at. So you scroll down now to the bottom, and here, if you've selected more, it'll give you all of them. But here we've got basically two triggers. It actually doesn't have any actions as such. So you can't do anything with. You can only set things off. You can't send emails from this particular thing, but you could then link that to your other email account and send things. It's the way Zapier works. It's not there are limitations to it. There's normally a workaround for when you're doing testing. And as we've said, once you know these things are going to be done multiple times in your business for the long term, just get them hard coded. So this is more like we use this as a testing ground. And then here you can see Google Sheets, the triggers, so new worksheet, new row in the worksheet, new spreadsheet actions, create rows, create content in the rows, update rows, so update spreadsheet rows. And you can do searches as well, so you can actually look up a row. So based on any column name, you can then search and find that row and then pull that data out for that particular row. So if you've got all your information for all your clients, for example, if you don't use a CRM but you use a spreadsheet instead, then you can actually use Zapier to actually interact with that really coolly, to actually use that information effectively for doing whatever you want. So you can turn your spreadsheet into a CRM, if you like, a really usable CRM. If that's what you want to do.
Kemi asked earlier and I missed it, apologies. I take it all these apps are GDPR compliant. Zapier is effectively, Zapier is the data controller and the user is the, no, the other way around. Zapier is the data processor and the user is the data controller. But yeah, the simple answer is yes. Obviously, I wouldn't want to vouch for every single app that it integrates with. You'd have to take it on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, in principle.
But you're just moving data around. So in your terms of business, you should say that you use Zapier. That's how you get around that. So your terms of business, which you should be signed by everybody who interacts with your company, in there you should say that you use software like, not, I wouldn't specifically say Zapier, you use things, automation software, which will pass the data, because you are in effect passing the information, whether it be encrypted or not, you are passing it to a third party and back again, even if it's never read by anybody. You are, so cover your own bases, but I'm sure, yeah, it's not like you're giving the information which is then accessible to anybody else. It's just Zapier is just passing it through, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd need, if you're thinking of another thing, every single app you use in your entire business, you'd have to actually get direct consent for, because everything is stored in the cloud these days. Mm. So every app you use has this issue around GDPR. So I think it's just being sensible. If you have good privacy policy that you actually uphold, and that you actually have a good terms of business which you get everyone to sign, shouldn't be any issues.
Someone's asked, I think that's Paul, could you create a client proposal in Word format and pull info from a variety of sources? So I'm reading that as, let's say you want to create a client proposal, you're going to have all different variables that go into each instance of that proposal, and you want to be able to pull, like their name and address and things. You want to be able to insert them and generate a load of proposals on the fly.
Yeah, so you're going to have project name, client name, contact name, introduction, summary. You're going to have an Excel spreadsheet, which is the quote format that's pre-built. You might pull in some various, product data sheets in the appendices. I mean, you could get a VA to do that, and it would probably take an hour or two. Or you could spend your time pulling lots of information from a variety of sources. I know it's possible, but would Zapier be the right platform to do it?
It probably depends on the source. So I know there's quite a good Google Sheets add-on, for example, called Document Studio. So you could have you could export some data from your CRM into a Google Sheet with all of the different variables, and Document Studio will create a load of these proposals from a template and insert all the relevant variables and create 10 instances of the proposal.
Is that basically just mail merge?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much a mail merge solution. Another option would be something like PandaDoc, which Steve I put me onto yesterday, and I had a quick look at it, and it was really interesting. That integrates with a lot of CRM solutions as well, so you could literally directly connect your CRM straight to that and bypass something like Zapier completely, and again create really nice looking proposals and letters and whatever based on the information in each contact record in your CRM. So yeah, there's probably multiple ways of doing it. You'd probably just want to pick the way that had the fewest steps, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
To add to that, I'd say if you are on top of your CRM, all that information you described should be in there. So therefore, I would use something that directly communicates with that. If you need to add extra stuff in, and I presume something like Document Studio, that is the way forward, to basically pull everything from your CRM, whack in an Excel spreadsheet, generic Excel spreadsheet, or if the spreadsheet is also customized to the client based on certain values that you've pulled from, you may need Zapier to then find that and pull it in. But then that should probably go back into your CRM if it's anything to do with the client specifically. So, yeah. There are multiple ways to skin a cat, and this is no exception. There are many solutions to these problems. You just need to find one that you're comfortable with and you have some knowledge of, and then, like Adam says, try to minimize the steps involved in anything and minimize the interactions. What else have we got here? Can you Come propose the client. Well, that's Paul from Arshad. Yeah, it is super powerful. I didn't appreciate it until I started using it. You can do just literally millions of different things with it, and you've got to, as I say, I think the biggest challenge is not getting involved in it and actually just using it for what you need it for, and not trying to think of things it could be good for and coming up with complicated solutions to problems that don't even exist. So that, keep working on your business. When it gets to a point where you've got time to spend doing that sort of stuff, and that's great. But
it's definitely full of lots of gems that I just had a good glance at it that we could actually save a lot of time.
Steve, Zapier versus cheers. Sorry, I didn't mean to pick up that. I was just reading, and I'm not very good at doing two things at once. No, totally, it's definitely worth a look, especially for someone like you. You're pretty computer savvy, to say the least. So I think with your head on it, you could probably come up with some really cool stuff to do. And let me know how that goes. I'll be interested to see what you do with it.
I've actually written about quite a bit of code last week where I think Zapier could have probably done it for me, looking at it. So it's definitely good. I'm going to start looking more into it deeper.
And if nothing else, it's a much better way of prototyping.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, and then once you know that's what you want, you can tweak it. Like we're saying, it's not the best with Asana for complicated tests, but it works and it's dead quick to set up. So we found that fudge where we just have step 1, step 2, step 3. That gets around that limitation, and then what we will do as soon as we've settled on that, we're going to get it hard coded. So,
I'm actually looking more at automating receipts into Xero and pulling the bank feed data out of Xero into other applications. That's what I'm actually looking at the moment. Try and automate that.
I mean, using Receipt Bank would solve that problem of having to think about how to automate that, putting them in and then pulling them out. Depends on applications you're talking about, but yeah, you might. I'm not actually looked at exporting automatically. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear how you get on.
But I'll actually update you in maybe a couple of weeks' time or a month's time. See how that is.
Yeah, please do. We'll get you online and that's what you've been up to.
No problem. Talk again.
Cool. IFTTT. So that is if that then this.
If then that.
Yeah, if that then this or whatever. Yeah. So basically, it's a similar idea, but it's more. So Zapier is more about, I'd say, linking computer apps and software that are quite chunky in this respect. And they may have changed this because I didn't look at it for a couple of years. But IFTTT is more about sort of phone apps and calendars. And is that still valid?
Yeah, I think so. It does do a bit more, but I think probably the key difference is that it's IFTTT is about the most simplified version of this that you could possibly get. It's very much one trigger, one action. So you don't really get this multi-step kind of concept that you can with Zapier. It's very much if I get disconnected from my Wi-Fi, then turn my mobile data on or whatever, or turning your Bluetooth on at certain times on your phone. Very much one kind of action.
Yeah, sorry, I was reading and I can't do two things at once. So apologies if you wanted me to respond. I'm just reading from you need to again. What time do you finish, and will it be available online anywhere afterwards? So we're going to finish relatively soon. I think we're getting to the end of questions now. Yes, it will be available online. Not 100% sure what format yet. Probably we'll just need to go through and anonymize anything, but then we'll probably stick it on the website. I think it's quite useful stuff for quite a lot of people. Does anyone have any final questions before we do wrap it up? Just if there are any questions, please drop them in. I'll just say thank you very much to Adam for joining me today and helping us out with this, and always good to do stuff together.
Yeah.
And thank you for everyone turning out. Really good turnout. Obviously, it's something that is very relevant to people, especially on a systems and outsourcing program. But more so it's just relevant to every type of business. So I'm glad that you all think so. And please spread the word if you thought this was good. Really appreciate it if you spread the word about it, both in the Systems for Outsourcing group, but also on the wider network as well. We don't want to become a company that relies heavily on marketing and pushing people. We want to be a company that is remarkable, that delivers a service that is so good that people want to talk about it. So if you thought this was good, please do talk about it, and it helps that massively, and it means that we are more motivated to do more things like this for you guys. So my little plea. But yeah, so let's see anything else. Oh, thank you everyone for your thanks. Cool. No other questions have come in, so I will say goodbye. Thank you so much for turning up and listening to us. Cheers, Adam.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
See you all again soon. Thank you.